All right, welcome back to Boring Reviews. We have had a wonderful weekend. This is a 3-day weekend for us. So happy Labor Day, everybody. We are bringing you what we consider a special video, but this is kind of a video that I have been planning on doing ever since we created the channel. We're going to be giving you a top 10, and this is in light of the new Joker trailer that came out, the new Joker movie coming out. It's a comic book movie, but it's a little different than a comic book movie. Our last reaction has gotten a lot of views for us, at least. And so we're really excited about that. So we're going to give you our top 10 comic book movies of all time. Now, let me just tell you a little bit of how I chose my list. He'll tell you how he chose his list, right, and then we'll get into some honorable mentions. So when I chose my top 10, first of all, when I say comic book movie, it can be any movie based on any comic book. Now, most of them are superhero movies. Let's just say that. But they may not all be superhero movies as long as they are based on a comic book. Right. For me, the three biggest factors for what made into my top 10. Personally, the first time I saw that movie, what was my reaction? How much did I love it? Because all these I loved the first time. Rewatchability plays a huge factor into it.
It does.
I don't really care about aging because some of these movies might be older. I don't care about how well they age, but for me, when I watch it over and over, do I still get hyped and excited? And for these, I do. And then number 3, as far as the film techniques that are included in it, directing, acting, writing, doesn't play a huge part in my top 10, but when you are trying to bring down hundreds of comic movies down to 10 and then a 5, it's super hard to do. And at the end of the day, it's what movies I personally like the most. How did you choose your top 10?
It was hard. Initially, it was going to be top 5 is what we had talked about, and it was ridiculously hard. Even at top 10, it was brutal. There's going to be some movies that you guys are like, how did you guys omit that from the list? You know what? It may be your favorite. This is just our opinion. But I really used one of the things you said in our Terminator Dark Fate video where it was like, oh, I forgot about that movie. If I cannot remember the plot, if I cannot remember the movie, if I cannot remember some lines instantly from the movie, then it can't be top 10 because it wasn't that impactful. So that's kind of what I went with. I agonized over this thing. Like, how am I going to leave this film out? It was painful. Yeah, tears. Like my students say when they see their papers.
Oh, snap.
In any event, we wanted to make this a quick video, so we're just going to count down. We're going to go from 10 all the way to 1, and we'll each take like 30 seconds and explain why it was in our top 10. But before we do that,
here we go.
Boring Reviews!
Cut to my students falling asleep in class.
So let's get into some honorable mentions because you've got to add those in there. Once again, this is Boring Reviews. I'm Nick.
I'm Gabe.
This is a new channel. We've been getting a lot of love recently, at least for us. We're a local channel. When I say local, I mean small channel. But we appreciate that. If you like this top 10, check out some other videos, subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. So let's get into some honorable mentions. Why don't you just list all of your 3 honorable mentions right now?
Okay, honorable mentions. First honorable mention on there has to be Aquaman. Aquaman, I told you before, I love this DC. I love this channel. And I'm a huge fan of DC. You know, Batman's one of my favorite characters of all time. The Joker, one of my favorite villains of all time. And I'll tell you, Aquaman to me saved the DCEU because it was so bad. I mean, so bad after Justice League, and people absolutely lost their minds. But yes, Aquaman. Aquaman is my first honorable mention. My second honorable mention, this one was really, really hard for me to not put in the top 10 because to me it was like the movie that broke the mold. I remember the impact of those movies when I was a kid with my older brother who got me into comic books. But it was the original Superman. Like, to me, still to this day, I'm sorry, Henry Cavill.
An honorable mention?
That's an honorable mention. Oh, I know, blasphemer.
Wow, that's the OG right there.
I know, the original Superman. To me, when you think of Superman, who do you think of Superman?
Christopher
Reeve. Okay, we don't think
100%.
Henry Cavill. I'm sorry, Henry Cavill. Christopher Reeve and
Henry Cavill will be number 2, but yeah.
It's so hard for me to put it down there because, again, some of the scenes don't hold up to today, and I know we talked about that as far as like the special effects were included, but as far as acting was included, Marlon Brando was in that movie. It was his dad. I mean, again, Reeve made the role. My last honorable mention, and this one really, I was like, man, I have to put it in my top 10, but I couldn't, and it was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. It's one of it's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. I have to put it in my honorable mentions. I think it was Spider-Man 1 was good, and I think it really paved the way for the modern superhero movie. Good. However, it was fabulous. Okay, it was fabulous, but okay, I can't put it in my top 10. Okay, I love the movie. I love the Tobey Maguire. It was his best role. I can still remember in my head that scene when he's in the cafeteria talking to Mary Jane, and all of a sudden the car's coming through the window that Doc Ock throws at him, and just his spider sense kicking.
That's one of my favorite. Called Spidey Sense. MCU. You don't know what it is. Not Peter Tinkle. You barely use it. Sam Raimi knew how to use a Spidey sense.
Yes, but for me, that's my top. My 3 honorable mentions. What are your 3 honorable mentions?
So my 3 honorable mentions. First, I'm going to put on there just an honorable mention, the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. Okay. I love that movie when it first came out. I was 16 or 17 when it came out. I remember going on a camp out with my dad and a bunch of his friends and their kids, and they were all talking about it that weekend. Did you see Spider-Man yet? These are grown men. Right. And that, Spider-Man in the 2000s was mainly the very first huge comic movie that we got. It started this whole craze.
It was.
Another honorable mention, you might laugh at this one, but the original Ninja Turtles. Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a comic book before it was a TV show.
And, how did I forget that?
And the original movie, Secret of the Ooze is cool, but for you kids, if you've never seen these, you're probably going to watch it and say, what is this nonsense? I love that first one. I still quote that first one, especially when Raphael's on the rooftop and he's like, come on, guys, how do you expect to beat me? And then they all infiltrate.
Good answer. Yes, I forgot about that movie.
So, and that movie shows you a real character development of Raphael and how he goes through not really feeling like he fits in. It's a great movie. And then you got Casey Jones and all this kind of stuff. Love that movie. And then my last honorable mention, it was my number 10, but I had to take it off for something else, is X-Men Days of Future Past. Now,
what? Blasphemer!
I can tell from that reaction that might be in your top 10. But that's what's beautiful about this kind of video is we're all going to have different opinions. Right. We're all going to feel different things. For me, the reason why it got bumped out of the top 10, it's a great film. In my opinion, it's the best of the X-Men, so that could be a little teaser for what may not be in my top 10 at all.
Right.
It's the best of the X-Men movies. I love all those movies for the most part. But for me, it was the rewatchability. Even the second or third or fourth time, I wasn't as amped as I was that very first time when I went into it. And there's some technical issues here and there, but that still was a great film. Almost made my top 10. It was that close, but I had to kick it out for something else. Okay. So we're going to get into our top 10. We're going to do one at a time. Here we go. 10. All right, so for me, number 10 is a great film. These are all great films, okay? Top 10 all time. Don't kill me on this one. Captain America 3 Civil War is my number 10. I couldn't get it higher than number 10. It is a great film. Remember, we are here to celebrate films, not destroy films. It is a great film. We got the introduction of Spidey in here, Tom Holland. And in my list, Tom Holland's not going to make another appearance as far as a solo film. I don't have any of his films, even though I enjoy him very much. But Civil War is a spectacle. That airport scene is amazing. The reason why it's not higher is because even though I like the villain enough, he's not a great villain. The airport scene everyone talks about and that final battle scene at the end, but no one really talks about all the other things that happen. I love Black Panther being introduced in this film. There's so many good things. I love Winter Soldier and the Falcon, their interaction, about how they hate each other. And then when Captain America kisses his girlfriend, they all give him the look like, yeah, that's my boy. I got number 10.
Wow. No, I mean, you know what? Just a quick rebuttal to that. Obviously, you guys can tell by my reaction, I love this film. All I'll say is that is one of the greatest storylines of all time. So, wow. All right, my number 10. And you know, it was really rough to pick this movie, but this low, but I couldn't put it any higher. I absolutely couldn't. So, my number 10 is going to be Batman, the original Batman. To me, it's my favorite. I mean, come on. I'm the biggest fan. I've said it 18 times on this channel. That movie, absolutely. I mean,
1989, right?
1989, and it was one of those movies where at first I thought to myself, really, Michael Keaton? He doesn't even have any. You know, he's not worked. He's not buffed. He's been in romantic comedies, but. You know, it was the first movie to really bring in the actual visual aesthetics. Jack Nicholson in there. plays the Joker, Jack Napier. His performance to this day is lauded as one of the best. I mean, the original Batman has to be on my list at number 10, and that's no disrespect. That just tells you how hard as much as I like Batman, how revered the rest of these movies are. So Batman, 89 Batman, Tim Burton. All right. Number 9.
All right, number 9, I have talking about Batman. I got a Batman film at number 9. For me, this is what really started it all as far as top-notch comic book superhero films, and that's Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan. I know a lot of people who have it way higher than any of the other Nolan films, but for me, it's at number 9. It's not his best, and that's kind of giving some of my list away already, but it is phenomenal. There's just some parts that are slow, but talk about an origin story. This is what I think of when I think of an origin story. We have Bruce Wayne at the beginning of when he's an adult. Obviously, there's some stuff when he's a kid or whatever, but this is really his transformation. Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson, does a phenomenal job as the villain. Kind of an unconventional villain when you think about the super villains of Batman. And then they end it with, that Joker card and getting you ready for the next one.
Right.
Christopher Nolan knows how to make a movie, and for me, this was the first time I noticed, wow, this guy is special.
Okay. I'll take that. All right, so for me, number 9 has to be Logan. All right, Logan, to me, has been the best character that MCU... not the MCU, sorry. The best character that Fox has done right, okay? I love Wolverine. That's my oldest brother's favorite comic book character of all time. And, he's the one that got me into comic books. There was so many Wolverine, toys and comic books around the house. It's not even funny. So, Logan, I love it because it was a character study, but it was also the closest they've got to the reality of the violence. I mean, it deserved that rated R, and it wasn't for language. There was a couple of but it was because he was just in there, brutal, stabbing people through the head.
First scene next to the car at nighttime.
Oh man, that scene was amazing. Logan, I had to put it up there. I think it was, unfortunately, it's going to be Hugh Jackman's last movie. It's his swan song, so we won't see him reprise the role. I tell you what, whoever picks up that role better do a good job because he made it iconic. So for me, it's gonna be Logan, number 9.
I just gotta say, I personally am one of the few people who's not a big fan of Logan. It won't even be in my top 50, but I know most of you think that's crazy. I'm just not a huge fan, but that's okay.
Okay. 8.
All right, number 8. I mean, this list is so hard.
It is hard.
Because top 10 is tough. Number 8, I've got to put a movie in there from the MCU. It's just 100% fun from beginning to end, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of those films that we were not expecting to do anything.
Not even.
And then when it came out, I'm not gonna lie. I watched it maybe 2 weeks after it came out because I knew I was gonna eventually watch, but I'll get to it. But I had friends tell me, "You gotta watch it." Like, really? I do? Okay, let's check it out. And then the first scene where you got Chris Pratt and he's dancing around to that song and he's kicking stuff on the planet on Morag. Awesome. So for me, number 8, it really catapulted Chris Pratt into a superstar. It really, with all those characters, all those actors, but I have a soft spot for Zoe Saldana. Right. She is a beautiful woman and a great actress, and she makes it even better. One of my favorite parts, and it's such a silly part, is when Rocket's in the city with Groot, and he's making fun of the baby. Look at this guy. He's got to be carried. Who do you think he is? The comedy is off the hook. There are some parts near the end before the climax where it's a little slow, but other than that, great film.
Wow, that's a great one. Unfortunately, I tell you what, I had to leave it off my list, but Guardians of the Galaxy is a great movie. And this movie, I tell you, I struggled with not putting it higher on the list, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. And as an X-Men fan, it kills me, but it's Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past to me is the best interpretation of X-Men, what it is. I mean, it's the closest one to the comic books. I love the visual effects of it. I love the Sentinels. I mean, it was fabulous. To this day, if I'm going to watch an X-Men movie, it's always going to be Days of Future Past. And I think that, honestly, it was. I would have even been okay if they had left it off there. That they gave us Age of Apocalypse, and even though it wasn't that bad, but I expected more out of that film because Apocalypse is such a great villain, and I think that the movies that followed it as well, Dark Phoenix, just can't. Days of Future Past. If you guys want to start with an X-Men movie, guarantee you watch Days of Future Past. You will not regret it. NumberSeven.
All right, NumberSeven. Here we go. I love this movie. It came out in 2004, I believe, and we're talking about Spider-Man 2. I love Spider-Man 2. I can't believe it was not on your top 10. I love Spider-Man 2. Now, people are going to watch it nowadays, and they're going to say it's a little more camp than I thought it was. They're going to say it doesn't age, but remember what I said? That doesn't matter on my list. I just watched it again with my daughter and my youngest son a few months ago. I loved it again. This movie, in my opinion, is probably one of the best direct sequels to any other great comic book movie. There's very few that can measure up to it. There really is. Thor 2, get out of here. Ugh. Captain America 2, oh, that was really good.
Oh, that
right?
was really good. Yeah.
But so many others cannot measure up. But this Spider-Man 2, we have a great villain, a different kind of villain, not a cartoonish villain too much. We have an Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock. We have Spider-Man, Peter Parker, struggling with wanting to have a relationship and knowing that it's just not possible. We have all these different elements that come into a great Spider-Man 2 film, which just makes Spider-Man 3 so disappointing. Right. But at least Sam Raimi himself said that he understands that he did a horrible job with that movie. Anyways, Spider-Man 2... that is one of those original, awesome comic book movies, and I'm not going to forget about the past, even though he may have.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I deserve that. Shame for shame. I just couldn't get it higher. I'm sorry. All right, so this film, some people may not even, if you're watching this channel, chances are you know it, but some people may not know this film. But what do we always say? I'm the villain in the group. I love the bad guys, right? So, Watchmen. Watchmen was such a dark comic book. I love Watchmen, and I tell you what, it's they did a really good job embodying those characters. I love Rorschach in that movie. He was so scary and so menacing, and he's like the one that's not even a super. He doesn't have any real superpowers. I mean, it was awesome, and you have to watch Watchmen. Again, another rated R movie on there, just like Logan, so it tells you where my tastes are at. But Watchmen, I couldn't leave it off the list. It was awesome.
But I wonder if we don't have Watchmen, do we get the Joker years later? I'm not sure, because Watchmen was Zack Snyder was not afraid to go dark.
Yeah.
And to look at superheroes in a more realistic, more gritty way, where they got the bruises and they're tired and they're taking off the suits and they're
Yeah, I think that really opened the door for saying, okay, yeah, superhero, and even like The Boys, which we talked about on this channel, which is a show on Amazon. I think Watchmen gave all those properties the permission basically to say, okay, well, the FCC didn't shut them down, and they didn't get sued, whatever, because they showed you the reality, the grittiness of being a superhero.
6. All right, so here, this is gonna blow his mind up. I know it. But number 6 is not a bad thing. Number 6 is great. Okay? Avengers Endgame.
How dare you?
Number 6.
How dare you?
Okay. So, Avengers Endgame is number 6 of all-time comic movies. That's pretty good. It's not a complete film. That's the biggest knock, okay? It's the second half of Infinity Wars. It has some slow parts. When I heard 3 hours, I was elated because I love long movies. Right. If it's worth it, one of my favorite films is Wyatt Earp, right, which is a different, vein of film, but 3 hours for me of awesome historical movie. This 3 hours does not need to be 3 hours. There's at least 40 minutes that could have got cut, in my opinion. Some of the jokes going on in the middle are not great for when I'm watching it again and again. But Endgame is still, let's focus on the positive. It is a great film. That last battle scene, and I'm telling you, the last 50 minutes of this movie is what put it in the top 10. Without that last 50 minutes, right, it wouldn't even be in my top 10. But talk about unbelievable nerd geekdom going crazy. When we watched that in the theater that Thursday night, people were going nuts. And then spoiler alert, every 5 seconds, you got Cap with the hammer, Avengers Assemble, you got Falcon saying on your left.
Goosebumps right now. What are you kidding me?
That really catapulted this movie to number 6 for me. But you got to admit, it's definitely not the best of the Avengers movies. I'm just going to say that.
I'll tell you right now.
Phenomenal.
Agree. I'm sorry to interrupt, but agree to disagree there because none of the other movies on this list have made me cry. And I know that there were grown men, including someone else I know here, okay? We were balling at this movie. This movie touched so many emotional heartstrings.
I cry at lots of movies, though.
Okay, it was amazing. This movie touched me in a way. I mean, it's on my list, obviously. So I'm shocked he put it at 6, but that's your opinion, and I will respect it. But we definitely disagree.
Be kind. Be kind to your words.
Be kind to the comments. So my number 6 movie of all time, comic book movie of all time, it's got to be Deadpool. I love Ryan Reynolds. I love Ryan Reynolds. He's such a great actor. He's super funny, super charismatic, and he really embodied the role of Deadpool. I tell you what. It was really the first one, and you can take a pick, one or two. But Deadpool as a property,
definitely one.
Definitely as a property it's got to be up there. Okay, Deadpool. I think wasn't it the highest R-rated comic book movie? It was awesome, super fun. I love the visuals of in there, and they, to me, fixed the wrong. Because where I absolutely lost my mind with the X-Men franchise was, oh yes, you know I'm going to say it. X-Men
it's in my top
Wolverine.
5. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, how dare you. X-Men Origins Wolverine, they're going to sew his mouth shut. What are you kidding me? Okay, his tagline is the merc with a mouth. How could you do that? That was so disrespectful. But luckily, you know, and I'm surprised I'm even going to say this. It was Fox, right? Because Deadpool's a Fox. Fox saved them and went and did it. They righted it wrong and gave us the real Deadpool. The comedy in there is awesome. It's super gory. I tell you what, it's everything that Deadpool comic book fans are gonna love. So that's number 6 on my list.
Okay, so let me make a quick omission. Spider-Man, honorable mention. Get out of here. Deadpool's in my honorable mention because he's not on my list. How did I forget about that? I have no idea. The first Deadpool is phenomenal. All right.
Number 5.
All right, so we are in our top 5 now. This is a very celestial, elite group of movies, and any movie in the top 5 is a huge compliment. Okay, so my number 5 is a little movie called The Crow. Okay,
wow,
The Crow.
Okay, so deep there.
This movie, for me growing up, was one of the few R-rated films I watched. Growing up in a household where it wasn't allowed, I was able to sneak this one in, and it truly blew my mind when I was like 12 or whatever when I first saw it.
Right.
And it never has slowed down. It's tragic how Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, who plays the Crow, that he died in filming this, doing a reshot. A real bullet got stuck up in there, and he died, but he was able to finish the movie. His career was going to go crazy. But if you can give a lasting performance, that's what you want to give. If you've never seen The Crow, it is unbelievable. The sequels, don't waste your time with those, but the very first one, it is a true dark comic book tale of redemption with mythological magic, whatever you want to call it, with The Crow itself. Phenomenal film with phenomenal actors. The villains, they do that early 90s kind of over the top, but they don't go way too over the top. It's phenomenal. You've got to check it out. Number 5.
Wow, that's a great one. Number 5 was hard, but I had to put it up there. And I'm like, to me, the biggest thing about it is getting the characters right. One of the reasons why I did not like Sam Raimi's comic, because they changed one of the biggest things, which was that the webs did not come out of web shooters. They came right out of his body. And I mean, that really bothered me. Even when the first Spider-Man movie came out, it's like, they didn't get the character right. So I can remember always saying that. But if you can embody a character like Logan, like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, to me, that's the best kind. For me, it's got to be Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was such a great film. Gal Gadot did an amazing job. And I tell you what, between it, there's no doubt in my mind, if Wonder Woman had bombed, we would have never got Aquaman, which was one of DC's biggest hits, right? It went way over $1 billion. So, and I think that between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, it saved the DCEU, because I tell you, the kind of hate after BVS and then the kind of hate that was out there after the Justice League, I didn't know if it was going to survive. And I told you I was crushed because I'm such a huge DC fan and I wanted to see more content. But, Wonder Woman, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. And it was, to me, our very first strong or solo film for a woman. So I thought that was really important, too, because they have tons of cool women comic book characters. And I thought, man, this is such a huge statement. They got everything right as far as the lasso of truth and just the way she uses her powers. It was such a great film. Again, my only disappointment is I can't put it higher on this list, but when you see the rest of the list, you'll understand why.
Number 4, though, that's some mad respect. It's not on my list, spoiler alert. It's not. For me, the third act is a complete waste. I would love, after she saves that city, after No Man's Land, that scene, that they just cut to black and they give us some text for what happens to the rest. It would have been more powerful for me.
I tell you what.
That third act, throw it in the garbage because it's horrible. The only good thing about it is what we have to go through with Steve Trevor, right?
Right.
That's got a redeeming quality, but other than that, I can do without
But that No Man's Land scene, you just said it, and again, goosebumps, chills.
That's one of the best scenes.
They're like, no man goes through there. That's why they call it No Man. No Man says, she's like, well, I'm not no man. And gets up and she crosses this battlefield, and it was,
what we should do? We should do
powerful.
a top 10 at one time on best scenes from comic book movies.
That was amazing. That was an amazing.
So I'll tell you right now, that's going to be my top 10. All right.
4.
So, this was, for the longest time, my favorite MCU film because of the initial reaction I got when I watched in the theaters. We're talking about the original Avengers. That movie, and I've watched it at least a dozen times, and I will say, after a dozen times, after 10 times, the rewatchability, there are some scenes that do not hold up, but again, the hold-up factor is not part of my list. I lost my mind when I first saw this film, and so many others did. Easily $1.5 billion when it came out. Now, kind of a long time ago, right?
Right.
2012, whatever it was. That film, unbelievable. Once that movie came out, DC started thinking we need Justice League right away because that movie just...
They rushed it.
Avengers is awesome. I love how Endgame, they pay homage to it. They go back into that scene.
Right.
And then we kind of see with the Hulk how much he's progressed since then. But the original Avengers film, again, talk about goosebumps, talk about best scenes of all time, where the Hulk walks out there and he says, let you in on my secret. I'm always angry. And then he punches that big old monster slug.
Yeah, that was a line that stayed
knocks
with you.
the thing out.
It was awesome. I think
unbelievable.
Wow.
Number 4.
I can't argue with that. That was awesome. That's a great film. Wow, good job. Not even a rebuttal there. All right. So for my number 4 was a movie that was disgusted. It actually is going to test our friendship after this. But it was Civil War. That is the best Marvel comic book. I mean, it's one of the best storylines of all time. And you mentioned about the villain. I think that's where people get that wrong. Okay, the villain, even though he's in the background and he was kind of pulling the strings, okay, he's not really the villain, okay? The main villain is not Helmut Zemo, okay? He's just pulling the strings. And that's, what he does in the comic books, really. He cannot face, he even says it. I cannot, much stronger than men than me have tried to take out the Avengers. I'm going to get them to take out each other. And I thought that was what the best part about the storyline, because a lot of time, the greatest enemy is within. And when you have this collection of superheroes who we've already known from even the first Avengers, which you mentioned, they all have their own egos. You can always see that they, kind of snap at each other from time to time. I think about, that scene with Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man fighting in the forest in the first Avengers. You get these guys are, really close to egos. They're egotistical. So you know what? I think that it was a great plot. It also introduced Spider-Man. It introduced Black Panther, which was amazing. I tell you
It's
what.
in my top 10.
Yeah, but it couldn't be that low. Come on, Civil War. Shout out to you. Great film, and yeah, that's my number 4 on it.
So the epitome of what have you done for me lately, right here.
3.
All right. This is where I get back at you. I cannot believe you left this off your list. I'm wearing the hat right now. 1978 original Superman. How is that not in your top 5? If you don't have this in your top 5, and I'm sorry, but you did not grow up with this film. You do not fully respect this film. And it's not just about respect and it's a garbage film. This movie is a phenomenal. I just watched it again for probably literally the 50th time with my kids not too long ago. It is long. It is a slow burn.
Right.
It's at least, I want to say, almost an hour before we actually see him as Superman.
Right.
But this movie is Richard Donner was not afraid to give us an actual film based on a comic book, not a movie trying to pay homage to the comic book. And there's a lot of homage it pays, but holy cow, talk about a character study. Talk about the acting. You got Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, who has no superhuman abilities, but he is that puppet master. There is some great lines in there. Lines that we hear again in movies of today, like from Ready Player One, where they're talking about, you can look at the ingredients of the chewing gum and unlock the mysteries of the universe. All that stuff comes from the original Superman, Christopher Reeve. He embodies the character. He was Superman for so long. I have watched this movie since I was 2 years old. My mom would tell me, where I would ask to repeat it over. This literally, for me, it means so much because this was the beginning of a movie obsession for me.
Right.
This was the beginning of me looking into movies in a deeper way than just it's on the screen and there's floating images. I even love the sequels besides the fourth one. They're not on this list, but the original Superman is a groundbreaking film. You don't have any of the stuff we have today without it. Richard Donner deserves our respect. Christopher Reeve deserves our respect. Great movie.
I tried to put it up there, and I just had to be true to myself. I had to be honest and say, okay, if I'm going to sit down and watch a movie today, would I watch it? And would I watch it with my kids? And, the answer is probably no. That's why I had to put in my honorable mentions, but I cannot say I would watch Superman before I watch all those other... He said, friendship over. But I think that for me, visuals are important, and being able to translate their powers are important.
1978.
I get
what
it.
do they have to work with? All right, get to your number 3. What do you got?
Okay. Number three is Avengers. I know you ever had it on your list, and how could you not? I think that was the movie that really told Hollywood, you know what, comic book movies are here to stay. They're a respectable genre. I mean, it broke box office records. It was such a powerful thing, and to see them all assemble on the battlefield, and some of those lines, Tony Stark, my favorite line of the whole movie is, Thor comes in, snatches up Loki from the back of the Quinjet and flies away, and Tony Stark, Captain America's like, oh, what do we got to do? We need a plan. And Tony Stark looks at him and tells him, I have a plan. Attack.
Yeah, we need a plan of attack. I do have a plan.
I have a plan. Attack. And just flies out of there. That shows you the dynamic in their relationship, where Tony and Cap are always butting heads, and it was awesome. And then in that very next scene, Captain America, with his cheesy, he doesn't have any superpowers. He has superpowers, but this is a god he's facing, and Tony Stark with all the tech, so he's got a shield, so he's buckling up the parachuting on him and everything. And Black Widow tells him, I think you should sit this one out, Cap. These guys are probably from legend. These guys are gods. Yeah, mythical gods. They're from legend. And he says, man, from where I'm from, there's only one god, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. And jumps out I can quote it.
The whole movie is nonstop. That movie, everybody was talking about. Amazing. Even my wife, who can care less about these movies, she loved that movie and still does. It's unbelievable.
I had to put it up there. And I tell you what, I think that really was where they started spending buku bucks, because if that movie had failed, not even failed, but if it had done what Justice League did, I don't think we see Endgame. I don't think we see an Infinity War.
When that movie came out, you can definitely see Kevin Feige and his team going like this and say, okay, let's go to work right now. We have the full liberty and freedom to make whatever we want.
Right. So I thought that was awesome. So that's why I had to put it up there. All right. Oh, man, top 2.
All right. So, number 2, Avengers Infinity War.
Wow.
Okay, so you got mad at me for putting Endgame down low.
Okay.
But Infinity Wars, for me, and I've said it to you a million times, is a better film than Endgame. Endgame is still amazing. It's in my top 10 for crying out loud.
Right.
But number 2 has got to be Infinity Wars. This movie, talk about Avengers and groundbreaking and everyone loving it. Infinity Wars was all that and then some. We have just nonstop non-stop things to feast on as comic book fans, as movie fans. It is so awesome. There's so many scenes we can talk about where we get goosebumps. I'm just going to talk about one, and it's when you got Vision and Wanda. They're fighting against those aliens, those children of Thanos, and then all of a sudden the train goes on behind them, and you see Captain America with the beard, and he comes out of the black, and you hear that Captain America theme, and then they throw the spear, and he just catches it, and I'm going crazy right now.
It was amazing.
Unbelievable movie from start to finish. The only reason why it's not number one is just because at the very end we have to get it to be continued. But other than that, honestly, it is a movie I have watched probably already 20 times, and it never gets old. I'm still laughing. The jokes hold up. The acting, the scenes, unbelievable. And you have all these characters that we've been watching for the last 10, 12, 13 years all together, and they're all doing stuff.
I tell you what.
Why has she been up there all this time? I mean, they're all doing stuff.
Great pick. You've redeemed yourself, my son.
Totally redeemed yourself.
All right, for me, number two, it was hard for me to put this film at number two, and I really struggled with this list.
He's wearing the shirt.
I had to do it because as great as this film is, it still doesn't take my number one spot. But, of course, Batman, all right, The Dark Knight, probably the best characterization of any superhero film ever. I'm sorry, and I will say ever right now. Okay, the Joker, he's just amazing in that movie, and Heath Ledger did such a great job that to me, it's, even though I'm excited about the new Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, can he? I watched it again just the other day. I mean, I watch this all the time, and I realized this is not even Christian Bale's movie. This is not Batman's movie. This is Joker's movie. He has more screen time than he does. I mean, he did such a phenomenal job, and how he keeps changing the stories. He's like, you want to know how I got these scars on my face? And when the best iconic line of that, which is also in many Batman comic book movies, "Good evening, Commissioner." Just the weird, quirks he has when he's walking out of the hospital and he's trying to blow it up, and he's looking at the boom, 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 it goes off, and he reacts and walks away. That is the Joker. The best line in there is when he goes back to Harvey Two-Face Dent, and
cut off to it.
Yeah, because Harvey, he just killed Harvey's fiance. He's got him in the hospital with his face burnt off, and he's like, "Hi." And then Harvey's trying to kill. He's like, "Look, that wasn't, let's." He said something to the effect of like, "Let's be friends," and he said, "I didn't kill your beloved."
It's like, I don't have a plan.
Yeah,
do I look like a guy who has a plan?
He said, "Yeah, that's what the line." He says, "But you're responsible. It's your plan." He goes, "Do I look like a guy that has a plan?" It was awesome. I had to put it at number two. I wanted to get higher, but you'll understand shortly why not.
Oh yeah.
Number one.
All right, so number one, I can remember being newly married. And in our first apartment, me and my wife, it was a small 700 square foot apartment, and we had this little area for our computer, a little desk there. And I can remember looking on the internet. I was home from work that day and seeing that the new Batman movie had cast Heath Ledger as the Joker. And I remember thinking, why? It actually said rumored on IMDb. Rumored. And I said, really? I mean, the guy's okay, and 10 Things I Hate About You, but are you kidding me?
First thing I thought was the guy from A Knight's Tale. That movie is atrocious.
That's actually a pretty good movie. But I couldn't believe it. So my number one, The Dark Knight, because man, was I wrong. Man, was I wrong. Heath Ledger, in that first trailer, talk about a trailer you've seen a million times. In that first trailer they released, I believe it was a 3-minute trailer, you see Heath Ledger, and right away you're like, okay, yep, I'm sold.
He did it right.
He's awesome. Right. Just in the trailer, you have no idea how many people went to see that movie just to see, I got to watch this performance. The Dark Knight is an amazing film. It's my number one, and it's like you said, it's because of the Joker. Now, Batman does a phenomenal job. Christian Bale really brings it in that movie for the time that he's in it. Alfred brings it for the time that he's in it. My only gripe is that Katie Holmes couldn't come back as Rachel Dawes. I think that Maggie Gyllenhaal did an okay job.
There were rumors that Tom Cruise kidnapped her.
She did a good job, but I really wanted to see Katie Holmes come back. But Aaron Eckhart Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face did a phenomenal. Everyone does a great job in this. Commissioner Gordon does a phenomenal. There's so many great scenes in this movie. It's tough to put one above the other, but for me, I can watch this a million times. And just from the jump, where you're at the rooftop and they're shooting that spear and they're starting that bank heist, and the Joker reveals his face and he says, "Makes you stranger." I mean, he is so good. Like you talked about the lines. I love the whole interrogation scene with him and Batman. Never go for the head. The victim becomes fuzzy
and confused. He said it cuts off the pain sensitivity. Then Batman punches him in the hand. He's like, "See?"
He's like, "You literally have nothing to threaten me with." I mean, he is amazing in that movie. But it's not just the Joker. It's this whole story. It is a great film. Christopher Nolan really, really had his heyday with that movie. Love that movie. That's right. DC is above all the MCU, in my opinion. I know recently a lot of people have already forgotten about The Dark Knight. Go check it out.
No way. How dare they?
Go check it out. I
tell you what. You know what the first thing I did as soon as that Joker trailer dropped a couple months ago? I watched The Dark Knight. And guess what? When the second Joker trailer dropped, you know what I did again? I went and watched The Dark Knight. Because that performance was just... Again,
and one of the first things we see about the Joker is a magic trick. Tell me you did not... the first time you watched that, if you happen to watch it in the theaters, you're like, holy cow.
Dude.
This guy's in front of a bunch of mobsters and does a magic trick and he sits down and then he opens up his jacket.
Don't do it. Yeah, I have all the grenades in there. That was super cool. I mean, my favorite part of that scene, just showing you his level of insanity. Batman's coming at him with the bat bite, I want you to do it. And I want you to do it. Come on, do it. And Batman flinches. They're playing chicken. He's just walking at Batman.
And then the way he just turns and looks at him, he is so into that role.
Super crazy. I love it. Wow. Oh man, how did I not put it at number one? I just couldn't. And this is why I didn't put it at number one. Now, first of all, we're gonna get a whole bunch of rage, but hear me out. I had to cheat a little bit. So
no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I have to.
I know what he's going to do.
And there's a reason why, okay?
There's no reason. This is because you couldn't choose. This is not a top 11.
Okay? I had to. It's going to be Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. First of all, those of you that follow it, you know it was supposed to be Infinity War. It's supposed to be Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. And then they ended up changing it. You even said that the reason you couldn't put Infinity War higher on the list because it was a to be continued. And you cannot watch one film without the other. Because if you watch Infinity War as a standalone film, then, oh wow, Thanos wins. The bad guy wins. That would have been hard. And we lose all these characters we love.
One slot, one movie.
Okay, well, I cheated. My apologies.
Yes, you did.
But for me...
Which one's better in your opinion? What's 1A, 1B?
I still say Endgame is. I mean, wow. It's... It's hugged. If I had to bump number 10 off of my list, then Dark Knight would be 3, Infinity War would be 2, and I would go with 1 with Endgame. I had never honestly been to a film, and it wasn't one scene, but multiple scenes where I was choked up and feeling all kinds of emotions. And I had always heard that that's what film's supposed to do to you. I never had that experience. But man, I had chills. I cried several times. I watched this movie 5-6 times at the theaters. And anytime anybody hadn't seen it, I'm like, I'll take you, my treat. And then I said, babe, they haven't seen it yet. I have to go take them to see it. I had to keep making excuses because it's 3 hours out of your life. You know what I mean? My wife went and saw it.
Oh, trailers, it's 3.5 hours.
She does not sit through 3-hour movies, and she went and saw it. I'm telling you, Endgame was such an amazing movie. I think that last battle, like you mentioned, when everyone is there, seeing all the characters on there. I mean, you got to see Doctor Strange. You got to see the Guardians of the Galaxy. You got to see, so many characters. It was amazing. I think that, it's the highest grossing film of all time. It beat Avatar. Which I predicted. I predicted it would. Okay, yes, it also cheated to do it. But anyways, over $2 billion. It's the biggest movie of all time. So to me, I have to put it at number 1. But not just because of the money and not just because of those things, but because, in my opinion, there's only been one other actor to win the Oscar, which was Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. I really do believe that Robert Downey Jr. is going to win an Oscar for playing Iron Man. What he did in that movie, it was so emotional. It was just the perfect send off. I don't think anyone else could have done that role, and he's really the one that gave the MCU with the very first Iron Man. And I found it hard to leave that off of this list. I really did, but you know, he really. I don't know how Avenger movies are going to work after it. I tell you what, my biggest complaint about Spider-Man Far From Home was they should have at least done a little holographic cameo or something of Tony Stark. He's been such a big part of Peter Parker's life in the MCU.
But you say you don't know how they're going to do other ones. We were saying that for the first Avengers, Endgame's the fourth Avengers, and we're still talking about it. I mean, they're going to find a way.
They need to.
So that's our list. You know, it's everyone has their own list. It's all based on opinion, but let us know what you think. This is an extra long video, so if you've stayed the entire time, we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But you just touched on the Academy Award. Let me just say my opinion. I don't think he's even getting nominated, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, God.
I can see him getting nominated as a Golden Globe because I feel, have different rules. The Academy Awards, they're all about what's happened in the last 3 months. And so if you have a movie that's before the last 3 months, something before September, when they start thinking about these nominations, that's because the studio has been pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I'm not saying that MCU Marvel films, they won't push it, but you really have to spend some serious cheddar and push to campaign for your guy to get nominated. I don't think he's going to get nominated because it's just outside that 3-month window. If he does, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but there's no way he's going to win it. Based on these trailers, I think it's already in Joaquin Phoenix's pocket.
Wow.
I really do.
Wow.
And there's other movies that we haven't even seen yet. Most of the Oscar bait films come out in November, most of them December.
Right.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't even see him being nominated, unfortunately.
I tell you what, if Joaquin Phoenix does the job we all hope he does, then I'll be okay with it. But that performance better live up to Heath Ledger's performance because the Joker's an iconic character.
But see, you can't compare it from that to that. The Oscars, they're all about, talking about Academy Awards, they're all about what was the performance this year.
Right.
This is a long video.
Super
we
long,
love
guys.
that you stuck around. Let us know what you think in the comment section. And until next time, whether it's a reaction or a review,
Later.
Adios.
Boy Reviews!